So what motivated you to start this organization, the Eye Bank?
When I was at the eye hospital, we had a low vision clinic, which the government sponsored. There was 13 of these low vision clinics around the country. The government picked places to have them, and they sponsored it, the government did. And the idea of it was, these are for people who had vision was so poor, normal glasses didn't help them. So we had to have very special techniques and doctors to prescribe glasses for them. And we were all in the examining room one morning, and this guy, about 55 years old, we put these glasses on him. Of course, they're great, big, thick things, made him look like a ghoul, but nevertheless, he said, he looked around, he couldn't believe it. And he looked at his wife and he said, "You're just as beautiful as I remember." And it still makes me choke up, and everybody in that room got choked up too. And that did it. The plunger went down, and that's when I decided what I was going to do the rest of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Right then.
Oh, absolutely. That was it. And having been a hospital administrator, I knew my way around hospitals. So
right.
I found out that in those days, people, remember, transplanting tissue was a new thing back then.
Any kind of tissue.
Yes. Yeah. And so the public was not really aware of it. And the way people were they were asking people to donate their eyes, before they die.
Right. Fill out the cards.
Yeah. So, but I found out right on that when somebody dies, Aunt Gussie's called in Cleveland, and too much is going on. Well, we've got to get in there within 24 hours.
Right.
So that didn't work.
Or even faster.
So I knew that in hospitals they had what's called a death package. When somebody dies in a hospital, there's certain things that go into motion. So I went to my hospital administrator friends that I'd met over the years, and I asked them if we could be included in that. Asked the doctors, residents, when they talk to the family, if they would ask them, they'd donate the eyes of their relatives. 55% of those doctors got yes answers. And we had no more waiting lists in Baltimore. And we started shipping tissue out. Excuse me. And then the medical examiner, Russell Fisher, who was a fabulous guy, he called me up one day and he said to me, "What do you do with your corneas?" And I said, "Russell, you know that. You're a doctor." He said, "I know, but tell me anyway." So I told him. He said, "I have a lot of people coming through my shop, meaning bodies, he called it his shop. I'll never forget." He said, "If you introduce a bill at the state legislature, I'll support it." And so we did, and we went down and testified. He was marvelous. And they passed the bill. I remember sitting in the gallery, and when that bill was passed, and I looked down the floor, I said, "They have no idea what they've just done."
And this was what, in 1975, I think?
Exactly. So then I was asked to do the same thing around the country, and I did open it up in a number of states.
This was a bill to have presumed consent for all autopsy cases, right?
Yes, just the cornea.
Just the cornea. Presumed consent for the cornea for all autopsy cases. Now, what did the passage of that bill do for eye banking?
Wiped out corneal blind and wiped out the waiting list in this country. Corneal surgery could be done on an elective basis then.
Because many states then followed suit after Maryland did it and passed their own similar laws, right?
And I went out and testified in these different
in these
places.
other places.
Yes.
And said this is something that needs to get done.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let me back up a little bit. So it's the early 60s. You're asked to start this eye bank. You get it going here in Maryland. And that's the Medical Eye Bank of Maryland, it was called at the time, right? And that was still a novel thing in the United States, wasn't it?
Oh, yes.
At that time, Frederick, what was happening around the country with eye banking? Was anything happening?
Not much. They were still the old way of getting people to sign up before they died, that when they die, they'll donate the eye. It was same old, same old. And I would go to these meetings, and I would tell them what we're doing, and they really ridiculed me.
Right.
I even had an emergency vehicle for my technicians to go around town to collect the cornea. I was condemned for that. I was condemned. And then, the big thing happened was when I suddenly realized, we've got to help support some of this stuff. So we began charging $100 for every cornea. Boy, would they come after me then. I mean, I was really...
As a recovery fee?
Yes.
And so your idea was, well, we have to charge, if we're going to be self-sustaining, we
Exactly.
have to charge something because I've got to pay technicians and I've got to pay for supplies and I've got to finance the
Exactly.
recovery of the corneas and then their processing and make sure they're safe when they go to the doctor and
Exactly.
all the other things that eye banks do to this day.
And
right?
$100, of course, didn't cover it, but at
But it
least
was something.
Yeah.
But then you looked abroad. And what did you see when you looked abroad?
Broke my heart.
Why?
Well, I mean, the amount of need was so overwhelming. I'll tell you a story. When I got into it, whether I was in India or Egypt or Bangladesh or wherever I was, it was just awful, the need. Nobody was doing anything. And it affected a lot of young people, 17, they were born
it
to the
still
time.
does.
And
Yeah.
so it broke my heart. So I became consumed by it. I remember one of the chairman of my board, who was a great guy, I came back, I was going around the world 4 times a year. And I came back from one of my trips, and he said to me, "Frederick, you're out of control," as a joke. But then I thought about it, and I said, he's right. I was so obsessed with doing that because if I didn't do it, nothing was happening. And I became compulsive about it.
Yeah, yeah. You were recognized by various people over the years as doing this important work. One of them was President Reagan in 1984. I've got a signed photo that he gave to you, but he also sent a very nice letter, and it's dated April 19th, 1984. It's on the White House stationery. Let me read a little bit from it. It says, "Dear Mr. Griffith, I would like to commend you and all your colleagues at the eye bank for your dedication in serving Americans who are visually impaired. Because of your efforts, many who would lose the gift of sight now see. I understand that the eye bank has initiated a computerized system to expedite the transmission and transplantation of corneal tissue. It is most fitting that this new system goes into effect during National Organ Donor Awareness Week, which I proclaim for April 22nd through the 29th. Now, the second half of the letter, he says some things that aren't very nice about you, so I'm not going to... Okay. He goes on to say, I have found that Americans are most generous when it comes to donating organs so that others may see or live. But more public awareness and education is necessary so that those who do not know about donorship may learn and have the chance to give the gift of sight. The efforts of the International Medical Eye Bank to facilitate effective identification and distribution is, of itself, an important step to help the public learn. Again, I congratulate and commend you all. Keep up your fine work and may God bless you. Sincerely, Ronald Reagan." What prompted this letter? Were you surprised when you got it? How did this come about?
I paid for it. No,
Well,
no. It just came, Brian Voskill, who's on the board,
yes.
he knew our work, and he was in Secret Service assigned to the president.
Right.
And he told the president about what we were doing, and that's how it happened.
And it affected the president, and the president wanted to acknowledge it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Reagan had Coop, his medical guy, form a committee
Edward Koop. Yeah.
to because there was a shortage of tissue around the world, around the country at that time, particularly kidneys and livers and things like that.
Right?
And so Anthony put together a blue ribbon committee to study it. So we did. We met 3 times and formed something. And Eli Lilly donated $1 million toward getting it started. And we met Brian and his wife at this meeting. They came to the meeting. They were very smart. They had 2 lay people there, one whose child had had a successful transplant, and one who had a child who didn't get a transplant and died. And the Voskill was the one who
Yes.
died.
Yes.
And we became fast friends there.
Yeah.
And that was 100 years ago. I mean, it's a long time ago.
Right.
And we've been this close ever since.
That's fantastic.
That was one of the great things about what I did, was meeting and associating with those people
I was
like
just going to
that.
say that it's one of the. Am I correct then to list that right up there as one of the most gratifying parts
Oh.
of your career, are the kinds of excellent people you
Yes,
got to associate with and to work with and
absolutely.
to collaborate with? You know, these are all people of goodwill. You
Indeed
know,
so.
no one's getting rich in iBanking. No one is doing it for money. They're doing it because they care. And those are the types of people that are drawn to it, so they're the ones you get to work with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.